Welcome to another weekly reflection. I'm joining you from my stall, my allotted seat as Canon Treasurer in the choir of the cathedral. The stalls in Salisbury Cathedral date from when the cathedral was built 800 years ago. On the bottom of each is a beautiful carving known as a misericorde. Misericordes were made to prop up weary clergy during long services. They looked as though they were standing, even though they were resting. Here is a rare and privileged peek at the underside of my underside. It's hard to sit here and not feel a little intimidated by those who have gone before me, Canons Treasurer past, many men and 2 women of towering talents and profound holiness. The most famous of these is Edmund of Abingdon. Edmund was Treasurer of Salisbury when the cathedral was under construction. The anniversary of his death in 1240 coincides with the date of this broadcast, 16th of November. I believe that all Christians are saints. Edmund, however, is one of those heroes formally given the title saint by the Church. What's so special about him, and what might we learn from him? Edmund was born in Oxfordshire in the second half of the 12th century. His father was probably a merchant, a wealthy one at that, because the neighbours called the family rich. Edmund Rich had funds enough to study in arts and then theology at Oxford and Paris. He shuttled between the 2 cities over the course of several decades as a student and then as a teacher. One of Edmund's contacts on the university scene was Richard Poore. Richard was Bishop of Salisbury. He wanted Edmund on his team and appointed him Canon Treasurer here in 1222. It was a crucial time, the foundations of the cathedral having been laid just 2 years earlier. We don't know much about Edmund's time here, except that he failed on at least one occasion to pay his dues into the Fabric Fund, which was paying for the construction of the cathedral. He can't have done a bad job, however, because in 1233 the Pope gave him a stratospheric leg up to the post of Archbishop of Canterbury. This was a role which Edmund exercised with considerable energy and diplomatic aplomb. Within months, he had banished the king's foreign advisers, negotiated peace with the mutinous Welsh, and averted a civil war. Edmund died in France, en route to a council in Rome. It was the year 1240. Edmund is still over there, buried in a magnificent tomb in the Cistercian Abbey at Pontigny. Just 6 years later, Edmund's fan club had persuaded the Pope to declare him a saint. In part, this was because those who visited his tomb claimed to have experienced miracles. It may also be because he had taken a strong line as Archbishop against the power of the king. In this, he was like his predecessor, Archbishop Thomas à Becket, who was effectively murdered on the orders of King Henry II in 1170 because of the challenge which he had presented to royal authority. Edmund was a popular English saint in the later Middle Ages. Devotion to his cult was overshadowed only by that of Becket himself. Here in Salisbury, a church was dedicated to his memory, not to mention the chapel of Thomas and Edmund here in the cathedral, plus a road and even a school. Sitting here in Edmund's place, I am reminded that all Christians are in a long line of succession. That line goes all the way back to Jesus and his followers, the Apostles. Many Christians consider talk about apostolic succession to be about a line of ordination, one bishop ordaining another bishop ordaining another bishop. I've always been rather struck by the less familiar idea that apostolic succession is actually about a line of shared doctrine and practice. Clergy can and sadly do make mistakes, even if their ordination is in historic succession from the first followers of Jesus. Surely the succession which really matters is that we believe what the apostles believed and that we do what the apostles did. living lives of alluring holiness that shape others through the power of God's grace. A near contemporary of Edmund of Abingdon was Peter of Blois. Peter likened his work to that of a dwarf standing on the shoulders of giants. Peter of Blois hoped to see further by building on the achievements of his predecessors. As we reflect in this place on the beginnings of this cathedral and the life of Edmund in particular, how do we stand or sit in succession to the saints and apostles who have gone before us? Bye for now.